Have you ever wondered if you truly had a healthy relationship with food? Now, let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. Sometimes we think that just eating nutritionally dense and healthy foods means that we're a healthy person and that we have a healthy relationship with food. But really, it goes a step deeper than that. Having a healthy relationship with food means that we are healthy not only nutritionally, but also mentally and physically and emotionally. I think this topic is very relevant to the mindful and intuitive eating world because a lot of times we don't always know if we have a healthy relationship with food until we reflect and think back on maybe certain instances with our friends or eating with other people or the thoughts that we have while eating by ourselves. So today I'm going to talk about some of the signs of when healthy eating becomes unhealthy and also to get out of those bad habits that cause us to have those negative associations with food. I can't wait to talk with you guys about this topic because I think it's so important when you're starting your mindful journey that you reflect and take the time to really care for yourself mentally, physically, and nutritionally. Hey there and welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Katie. I'm a registered dietitian and personal trainer, and I do nutrition and fitness videos on YouTube. I'm really excited about this video because it's something that I think comes up a lot with my clients and I when we're talking about developing a healthy relationship with food. Because some people just think that they feed themselves well, so that means that they have a positive relationship with food, but then they look back and they realize that actually they're talking very negatively to themselves and maybe it's borderline obsessive or they're being restrictive without really even meaning to. So let's talk about some of those signs that maybe you don't have the healthiest relationship with food. And then later in the video, we'll talk about some of the solutions that you can fix some of those problems with. Okay, so the first sign that maybe you don't have a healthy relationship with food is a preoccupation with food. So if you're thinking about food all day long, this could be a bad sign. Now, okay, let's draw the line. There is a difference between having some healthy thoughts about what you're gonna have at your next meal or thinking ahead and planning for your next snack. That's not necessarily a bad thing to do. In fact, that's a really good thing to do. What I mean by a preoccupation with food is that you literally cannot get food off your mind no matter what you do. So for example, when I was having more disordered eating thoughts in my history and experience with an eating disorder, I would find myself in high school and I would be not being able to pay attention to the teacher and I would think about what I'm gonna eat next. I would think about what I'm gonna eat at lunch and how I'm gonna make sure that that's the healthiest choice that I can make. And I would think about what I'm gonna have that afternoon as a snack when I go over to my friend's house and what I was gonna do that evening if I had a sweet tooth and how I was gonna prevent that sweet tooth and how I would deal with if my friend offered me a cookie and I didn't want to have that cookie because it would be too much over my calorie limit. In my experience, those were some of the thoughts that I thought were normal at first, but then later down the line, I realized that that really wasn't normal to think about food that obsessively all day long, every second of the day, even after I had just eaten. Next sign that maybe you're not having the healthiest relationship with food is avoiding social situations for the purpose of sticking to your plan. Oftentimes, I would avoid hanging out with people when there was food involved, like maybe my friends wanted to get a pizza. And oftentimes when we did eat together, I would eat really slowly and try to avoid overeating at all costs and just obsessively think the whole time, not even enjoying the food, just how I wanted to eat as little as possible and make sure that I had to balance it out exactly to a T. There is a line between caring about the foods you eat and being conscious about the foods that you eat with friends or in social situations and thinking about it obsessively. I think the point is that if you're thinking about it all the time and you let it ruin your plans with your friends, then it's probably a sign that it's not a good thing and that maybe you're taking things too far. Which leads me to my next sign that potentially you have an unhealthy relationship with food, which is you don't allow yourself balance or you have a refusal to incorporate any sort of balance into your meal plan or into your lifestyle in general. Refusal to have any dessert or refusal to have dessert outside of maybe 100-calorie portion at any given time. This can be very symbolic of just some rigidity going on in your mental process with food, and that can be a bad sign when it comes to your relationship with food. And I feel like I should have prefaced this before. I don't mean this to be something that is supposed to shame you or make you feel guilty for having a negative relationship with food. Not at all. I have been there. I understand 100% where you're coming from if you resonate with some of these signs. I more so want to do this for the sake of reflection and maybe realizing that you have a negative relationship with food versus staying where you're at and continuing to treat your mind and your body in a way that's harmful to you. It's more so of a means of reflection, so please don't take it as something that's supposed to be like shameful. It's really not. I'm here for you. The dark blue community is here for you, and we are here to help support you and be accountability when you need it. And I also want to give a second disclaimer that this is not supposed to diagnose an eating disorder or diagnose any sort of mental illness, anything like that. You are not wrong for feeling these feelings. It's something that is ingrained in our society, and we really have a hard time preventing it. We see it in media, we see it in social media, and sometimes we learn it from our friends and our family. It's not your fault that you feel this way, and we are here to support you. I'm here to support you. Sign number 4 is having a label on foods, like good foods and bad foods. So you have a list of all the foods that are morally superior and okay for you to eat, and you have foods that are deemed guilt, cheat foods, bad foods, foods that you would feel shameful about eating, or maybe that you hide eating. Hiding foods and food choices maybe when they're negative, and displaying foods proudly when they're healthy is a sign that you might have some moral compass attached to your food choices. You do want to get away from it if you want to have a more healthy and mindful relationship with food. This is not an exhaustive list of things that are signs of an unhealthy relationship with food, but these are kind of my top 5. Sign number 5 is cutting out specific food categories for a reason besides a food allergy. And when I say food allergy, I mean a legitimate food allergy, not one that a chiropractor recommended for you. So if you have a legitimate allergy to a food, by all means, please cut that out of your diet for good. You don't need to have an allergic reaction and end up in the hospital. I'm definitely not promoting that at all. It makes me really sad as a dietitian when I see people cut out unnecessary food categories just because they heard it in a book or just because they heard that that food was going to cause fat. Newsflash, any food can cause fat if eaten in excess. Fat alone doesn't make you fat. Carbs alone don't make you fat. It's just the excess of energy that may increase your fat stores, which is a neutral thing. We don't judge if it does or if it doesn't, but I think that's a huge misconception that I just wanted to point out really quick. All foods can potentially lead to fat gain if had in excess. So we'll drop the mic there. Back to cutting out unnecessary food groups. Food groups are there for a reason, and we want to have a balance of carbs, fat, and protein, and things that are often deemed as bad in society, like, for example, bread or milk, can be really good sources of vitamins and minerals in your diet. So if you can consume them and you like them, then by all means, continue to incorporate those into your diet and don't feel guilty about it just because some Joe Schmo or Dr. Oz says that it's bad for you or that you need to cut it out of your diet. So here are a few tips to cut that diet mentality and to have a healthier relationship with food. Tip number 1, self-plug. I just released the Dark Blue Nutrition Mindful Muscles Nutrition Guide. So if you want some direct guidance on how to have a more mindful relationship with food, I touch on a lot of tips and strategies to be more mindful and intuitive with the foods that you choose. So check the description box below and I will leave a link to that if you're interested. I promise it'll go into so much detail and I think you'll be really happy with some of the results that you'll see when you incorporate some of the strategies that I mentioned in the guide. Tip number 2 is to neutralize your food talk. I talk about this in the nutrition guide as well, but just to touch on it briefly, if in your inner self-talk you mention cheat meals or good and bad foods, or I was so terrible this weekend because I had pizza and now I'm a big failure, try to reframe those thoughts into positive or neutral thoughts. So maybe over the weekend I had pizza and maybe I had a few more slices than I would normally have, but I'm still a good person and I'm still a healthy person. And today I'm gonna move forward and eat something that fuels me, and that is X or Y. Insert food right there. So that is one way that has really helped me and been really transformative in my journey to intuitive and mindful eating, is to reframe my thought patterns. And even This has been transformative for my anxiety as well. It applies to so many different facets of my life, and I'm so grateful for coming across this strategy. I use the app called Senvelo to do some thought journals, and they have a great resource within the app. I think it's called Thoughts, and you click in there and you can type out some of the negative thoughts that you're feeling and reframe them, and they help you do that step by step. So I talk about that app a lot, but they do have a free version, so I encourage you to use it and use that thought journal to reframe your negative thoughts around food. And tip number 3 is to have someone hold you accountable for being nicer to yourself, for being more mindful of your food, and for not obsessing around food. It can be really tough to do this on your own, and I don't want you to go through it by yourself. You have the Dark Blue community, and you have me, and you also have friends and family that I promise will be there to support you if you explain a little bit more about what you're going through. If you're interested in joining the Dark Blue community, again, check the description box below and join us in the journey to mindfully fueling your fitness. And also join us on Instagram at #DBNcommunity, #DarkBlueNutrition, whatever hashtag you want to use to connect with your fellow community members. I am so happy that you guys joined me today. I really appreciate it when you watch till the end of the video, and I will leave some extra videos that you might enjoy at the end card, so stick around till the very end, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.